Hopefully, this one does. So, for those of you who are coming back to watch this all over again, welcome in. I'm happy to have you. So, this week's kind of been a little bit of an odd week so far. Um, we just finished all the setup, and Monday I still had some little odds and ends things to do. So, I built another Kydex press on Monday, and I've still got to build my little screw system for it, but I got my foam cut here. And then a new master handle, another master handle, so I can run. Now I have a master handle for each press. I got that press mounted. I got my track, my cutting track for Kydex all set up. It's just been little odds and end things. And then I did some blade work Monday. But I had to do some machine setup on Monday. What's up, Manny? You got sound now, Steven? Everybody got sound? Let me know. Make sure, because the last one didn't work. How's it going, Manny? All right. So Monday, I had a little fight with this thing. So this is new to me. This is a direct drive, and the motor is bolted right onto this plate, and the drive wheel is right onto the shaft of the motor, and that runs straight to the belt. There's no belt in between. Now this is a belt drive system. See, this one has got a belt drive, a jack shaft, and the drive wheel's on the jack shaft. Now the back of the box is wide open, so that arm can go all the way through, and one of these tool arms that I've had is this one right here. This one was about 22 inches, and most of the arms now are 20 or 18. Well, this one, I did have one more 18-inch arm that big wheel is on. But other than that, that's the only 18-inch arm that I had. So I had to cut down this one, and then I had to modify this platen to get it the way that I wanted. I made a new hood, and then I made another hood just a minute ago. So this one runs extremely fast, and it likes to throw things right off of the top of this and stick it right to your chest. So I did some profiling with this, and my chest was completely covered in little shards of metal and this stuff, and it threw it in there so hard that it wasn't just blowing off with the air. And yeah, so this thing is wicked fast. It's way fast, and it's a 2-horse. The other grinder that I had, the last new grinder, is also a 2-horse, but the belt system right here is where you're going to get a slight bit of slippage. Even with a brand new belt, there's still going to be a little bit of slippage, which accounts for a slight loss of a little bit of power. This one, being a direct drive, there is no loss of torque at all. If you can bog this thing down, you're pushing too hard. So I've got a whole bunch of blades over here that I got to get profiled. All these ones up top are Nitro V. All these ones on the bottom are ADCR V2. And I've got a bunch of blades sitting over here. So these are all Lone Stars. This is the first of the Lone Stars. There's 6 of them in Nitro V. And then I've got, there's 4 more ADCR V2 blades in the oven for tempering round 2 right now. And those won't be done until 5/27. So all these, this right here is Zach's, and these 2 are in order. Other than that, all of these are what you could expect to see drop in here soon, minus that walkabout. It's a warpabout. It's too bent. I just can't let it go. It's a banana. So it still sits upon the bench. I've got a Signature Series here as well. That one's pretty cool looking. But anyway, Adventures. All this is Nitro V. Everything here is Nitro V. Adventures, and there's a Wasp, an Adventure Junior. There's 2 Mustangs, 3 Hornets, and then there's 6 Nitro V Lone Stars there, and then I have two 80 CRV2 Lone Stars in the oven right now. And yes, another fighter style. Yes, sir. Yes, so this grinder is going to be primarily for doing heavy stuff, flat grinding, rough flat grinding, and I'll probably use this for doing all the Nitro V roughing in, because the speed is what I was lacking. That's part of my problem with grinding Nitro V, is that I did not have quite enough speed to get it off there fast. Given that all the grinding on Nitro V has to be done after heat treat, the slower grinders, which is what I've been running for a couple of years now, the slower grinders just they'll do it, but they don't do it fast, and they don't do it efficiently. So anyway, I'm gonna get rolling on profiling all of these blades, and get one step closer to where I want to be for the week. Oh, come on. Let's do some noisy spark making. Gotta wear glasses with this machine. Possibly. This shield right here is perfect. It's now that I've figured out the right way to do them, this one's pretty fugly. This one is a little less fugly, and this one is actually really nice. My third attempt. So this one right here so far is my current adjustment of spraying back on me. This should keep the stuff from, it's just going to make a bigger mess right here, but it'll keep it from coming off of me, or coming off onto me, because that's driving me nuts. Here we go. Nothing coming off. It's all up underneath here. Here's a Tradition, full-size Tradition. This one is an 1/8" Nitro V. You want it a little thinner, it's an order. And we got a bunch of adventures to do. I'll alternate. Adventure. What's up, Gabe? job, John. What's up, Shane? How's it going, man? Making some mess. I hear you. It's pretty hot. One. One. Hornet. Thank you, Caroline Rose. What's up, Casey Sackett? Mustang. Another Mustang. Got one more. Revelation. 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 Two more. Got two tributes. Tribute. tribute. What's up, everybody? Don't go anywhere. You get sprayed off and I'll talk to you. Well, this grinder makes a mess. I even put that new plate on there, and it helped, but it still just makes a mess. It was all over my arms, and oh boy, this thing flings it everywhere. What's up, everybody? I'm Jake with Very Good Knife Company. If you're new to the channel, welcome in. I'm happy to have you. So, let's see. Typing with my mind. All right, so we've got a bunch of blades here that we just got finished profiling. Let's see. Now we got an hour to jabber. Because I'm here for another hour, no matter what. All right, let me spray all these off and we'll talk about it. So, got two tributes. ADCR V2. You can expect to see these dropping soon. All of these ones that I'm talking about right now, all of these blades I'm about to show you except for one, and I'm going to just go ahead and get it out of my way. This is an 1/8 inch Nitro V Tradition. Usually they're in 5/32. This stock, this was an order, a special request. So that's got to get heat treated. Now, you might have seen me, if you were sitting here for a while, you might have seen me hitting the front corners of all those adventures. And I bet you were wondering why I did that. So all of these adventures and that Tradition or Nitro V, see I hit the corners. The reason why I hit the corners is because these are ready to go in foil packets the way they are and get heat treated. Of course, I've got to take them over to the wire wheel and knock that little grinding burr down. But these are ready to be heat treated now. These, the corners up at the front of the blade, up at the tip, those right there will puncture the foil packet really easily. Even when you're trying not to do it, they still do it. So that's why I put those little chamfers. So I have kind of been sold on the 5/32 stock for adventures. I think it's great. So I did, and I had a whole bunch of this steel too, but I did a dozen adventures in 5/32 Nitro V. Here's 5 of them. And there's 7 more here. So, if you've been waiting on an adventure in Nitro V and 5/32 stock, so just a slightly thinner stock than the 3/16, then those will be dropping soon. I've got some Nitro V 3/16 stock adventures as well. These guys are heat treated. Those I will be dropping with the other adventures. Before we drop those adventures, before we do that big adventure run, that'd be like 16 of them right there. That's 16 adventures. Before we do those, I'll be dropping the Lone Stars, and we'll be dropping Mustangs. Let's see, there's 2 Mustangs, Nitro V. There's 3 Hornets, Nitro V. Those guys will be dropping along with the Lone Stars. Here is the Lone Stars. This guy is pretty cool. I was kind of back and forth on it, on what kind of little microscopic changes I wanted to make, and I think it's pretty tuned in. So it's got this little rise on the back, and that is really nice. Takes the place of like jimping, which I am not a fan of. But this will be a big old hollow grind and a swedge up top. I've got some in the oven right now that have been ground, so you can see what they look like when they're ground, which they look really cool. but they're in the oven. I can't go take them out. I'll also have some Nitro V, some ADCRV2 Revelations, 2 of them. They were just on the bench. All these ADCRV2 blades that I've got right here that I just profiled, all of these were supposed to be made and taken to Blade Show. That didn't happen. I ended up taking a whole bunch of knives, but I just didn't get around to these ones. So there's 3 Mustangs. These guys will be dropping sometime soon, along with those Nitro V Mustangs. I'm going to do a bunch of base model stuff, but I'm also going to be starting to incorporate more grip tech as well. Some Hornets. These Hornets are the same as the Wasp. I've got some Wasp. I'll show you in just a second what I'm talking about. I've got 4 of those Hornets. ADCRV2. And last but not least, we've got some ADCRV2 Wasps. 5 of them. They're all crusty. But these guys I got to clean up with the wire wheel and get that grinder burr off. And then I will mark them, or I'll put layout dye on them and mark them. They've already got layout dye on one side, and I'm going to be leaving that on there because I've got to mark the grind line. So this is the Wasp, this is the Hornet. You can see they are essentially the exact same knife, just one's bigger. And the biggest difference between these two, obviously in size, but is the thickness. The Hornet is 5/32, and the Wasp is in 1/8 inch. Both of them are hollow ground. Both of them will be super thin at the edge and slicey. But yeah, they're going to be dropping soon as well. I will try and get a lot of these done next week. For now, let's go. I got all that water cleaned off of here. And take all these over to the wire wheel. All right, so where are you going? One more. My goodness. All right. This is so much easier to get around in here now with the tripod and the cart all together. All right, so, oh, I forgot my glasses. Now this wire wheel is at its final stages of life. I've flipped it over 3 or 4 times, and it's now just flinging wires. Just like that. Just going to clean them up. Now at this stage, these ones right here are ready to go in a foil packet. Just like it is. Like that. All right, I'm going to do all these. Let's run through them all right quick. Just like that. Almost done with the Nitro V. What's up, Nicola? Anybody watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine? It reminds me of Nikolaj, Nikolaj. Excuse me. 3 more of those. Yeah, that's how they all started for me. You end up watching like a third of the show just in memes. That's how I found out about Parks and Rec. Didn't even watch the show until like 12 years after it's done. That's a good one. It's a pretty great show. Alright, that's all for those. Now see, they'll all move around together when they're stacked up like that. See, before all those burrs, they kept it from moving around. See how precise and pretty they are. Just for hand blanking, that's about as good as we can ask for. No complaints. Alright, so all these wasps and all these other ones, they've all got to be wire wheeled as well. But I try not to get any of this layout die off if it needs it. If they're full flat ground, they don't need layout die on the side. But these guys are hollow ground. So I'll just clean that little side of the blade up, make sure our edge is clean, and then we'll hit these with layout die when we're done. Like that. See, they're all still crusty down here. No worries. Nice and clean. Couple more and we'll go do layout die. Almost there. That's the blue stuff right here. That's the layout die. It's on this side so I could scribe the pattern on and grind them to this shape. And then I'm gonna, well, these won't get it, but, oh, look at there. Forgot to do those sharpening tools. We'll do that in just a second. So I won't worry about hitting the sides on these. I don't need layout die. I don't need to mark any lines because this is a full flat grind. That's going to be our grind line on the side there. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here in just a second, Stephen. Almost done. Another Nitro V. And that one I'll have to make a buddy for. That's the only 1/8 inch Nitro V I have to heat treat right now. I do have one more to grind out, but I just haven't done it. I haven't cut it out yet. But I'll have to make him a heat treating buddy. Alright. Let's go ahead and wire wheel these. I forgot to file in the sharpening choils on these Revelations here. We'll go do that here in just a second. Alright, now we don't have to come back. Alright, let's take these two blades over before we do everything else. I've got to, right now I've got these started. What's up, Francisco? I've got these sharpening choils started, but I will go ahead and file them in the rest of the way. I just went and got some brand new files too. There we go. Just like that. Nice and pretty. like that. I want those on the Revelation specifically. I want, well, usually with sharpening tools in general, I want them in before heat treat. Nice screechy sound. Go. Those corners aren't burred. Don't want me burr. All right. Now let's just bring all of these over. Over to the bench. Get these glasses so I can see. Now, all these guys right here, these Adventures, those guys are ready for heat treat, so I'm not going to do anything with them. Those are ready for foil packets. I'll show you how I make a foil packet here in just a minute. But first, I will do the layout die. So I can sit over here and dry up. All right, so for the full flat grinds, no reason to do any side die because we're not scribing any lines on. But that right there for the edge is all we need. That one. That one. See how pretty that blue is? I want to paint a motorcycle or something, car or something with that blue. Maybe a car would be too much. It's like a cobalt blue. It's really cool looking. This is the Dykem, the good stuff. All right, so some Revelations. The edge die is all we need. Now we're putting the die on here so when we scribe a line, it'll stand out like a sore thumb. We don't want to be trying to search for our grind lines. We just want to easily be able to see them. Almost done. Now this stuff is either acetone or alcohol based. So if you just let some air run across it, it'll die right before your eyes. It will dry really fast. All right. Those are all we need. So now the die is all dry, completely dry, and when you stick them together like that, sometimes the die will run down in there and get the edges as well. That's okay. I'm just going to do them one more time. Now, the whole blade is dyed. So this, like what I was talking about, this stuff is alcohol, acetone based. So then you can see it dry. See it dry? Pretty cool, huh? All we're doing is evaporating that alcohol. That's all. Even though there's dye on this side, I'm just going to darken it up with what excess is on the brush. So again, I want my lines to pop. I don't want to have to hunt for them. Well, hell with you. Fine, stay there. That's it. Alright. Now once they're dyed and dried, we're ready to grind them. Except we gotta scribe our lines on. But they're ready. Just like that. Now, they all look like this. We've got dye on our edge and dye on both sides. I have some different wing divider scribes set already. And I scribe both sides, and it leaves a double line on both sides of center. See that? Just like that. And for the wasps, those get a hollow grind that comes up right there. You see what I'm talking about with those lines popping. I want to see those lines pop. And the layout die gives me a good idea of where I'm grinding at. Just like that. That's all there is to it. So, I will do the rest of those in a little while. Let's move on. I got to do a foil packet. It does stink like fingernail polish. What's up, Dogbone Knives? Bobby or Cass? One of you two. I bet it's Bobby. How's it going? So, Dogbone Knives, Bobby and Cass were my neighbors at Blade Show. Well, I was their neighbors, rather. They had the same tables they had last year, so that's their spot. I was their neighbor. All right. Let's make some foil packets. Let's make a foil packet or two. So this is cool. I made a mount for this to sit. It used to sit on the shelf over there, but I took that shelf down. Now I've actually got a station for it. So when I make my foil packets, I like about 1 inch on the top and 1 inch on the bottom of extra, longer than the knife. If it's a little long, that's okay too. I just keep this little clamp on there to keep it from unraveling. It'll only do it once or twice. All right. And then about double and a half the width of the knife. 1, 2, about 3 times the width of the knife, I reckon. That'll do. All right, then I'll fold it over. And this bar is not quite long enough, but I put this little bar here because I was using my Kydex, cutting the rib that I use cut Kydex with. I stick it up underneath here. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but I like to stick it up underneath here and create a little lip, just like so, and then I'll fold said lip up. This just gives me like a break, almost like a metal break for sheet metal, just to create a bend like that. And then I'll just finish folding it over. And then once more, we'll fold it once more. All right, now that it's folded over like that, I want to make sure that it's crimped nice and tight. I have not, the ATP 641, I have heard people use that instead of the foil, and I have not tried it yet. Foil's expensive though, about $400 for that roll right there. So if I could get away from the foil, that would be pretty neat. You know, I was trying to think of who it was at Blade Show that told me that they didn't use foil for stainless. Maybe it was you, Bobby. Maybe it was. But I remember somebody telling me that at Blade Show. Just like that. And then I always put the pommel end in first. I need to try it though. I need to give that a try, because if ATP 641 works, I mean, just as good as the foil, I will definitely ditch the foil, because making the foil packets, it's not that big of a pain in the neck, but it's a pain in the neck. But again, the foil is so expensive. All right, so there's the point of my knife. I'm going to leave about 1 inch. I'll cut that excess off. And use that little piece of steel here to fold it. Just like that. There's a foil packet. This blade is ready to go. What's up, Jeff? How's it going? I miss Jeff. I miss Tim. What's up, Tim JK? Who else did I miss? Good afternoon, Jeff. This done got hot in here. It must have gotten bright and sunny outside. All right, so let's make one more. Tim, I'm making Adventures and some Mustangs, some Hornets. I got a bunch of knives on the table. There's some Mustangs, some Hornets, Wasps, and there's a couple Revelations. There's a couple Tributes and a whole bunch of Adventures. Got a whole bunch of Adventures. Yeah, I need to try that ATP 641 on, because that stuff's good up to, I want to say it's close to 2,000 degrees. So it should be fine, ATP 641. The only concern that I had with that doing the anti-scale coating instead of the foil packets. So I was worried that, like, if you didn't get it perfectly even, would it have an effect on how it plates up? I feel like it would have a little bit of an effect of how it plates up. Only like if you have big drips that hardened up in certain places. Big drips, that would be my concern. But you could paintbrush it on as well. I do have a paintbrush here for that job. Because if the knives that I use the anti-scale coating for, ADCR-V2 specifically, carbon steels, if the blade fits down in there, then I'll just dip them. But like the walkabouts and such, they don't fit down in there. So I got to use a brush. And you can get it pretty even with a brush. Oh, come here. Buster. Just like that. Another foil packet. So I've got a bunch of foil packets to make there, and then I'll be ready to start a bunch of Nitro V in the kiln. But that won't happen today. And then I've got to mark all of these wasps. Got to scribe all the grind lines in and the center lines on everything. And then tomorrow we'll do a live stream and talk about, well, we'll just grind all those. So got that new model coming out, the Counter-Strike, after the Lone Star. And I've already got some Lone Star blades over there, but this was the Counter-Strike sketch. And I tried to, so I really wanted it this size. That's the size that I wanted it. But I've had a little run-in trying to get some Nitro V in the sizes that I need. I thought maybe I'll make it slightly more compact and run it on 1 1/4" stock instead of 1 1/2" stock. Because of the guards, I needed that little extra width. So I made it this size. You can see how much smaller it is. I don't like it. I'm not going with that. I have another one in the oven right now, and it's going to be finished in about 15 minutes. It'll be done with heat treat. But this is in Nitro V. I just had this extra piece, and I tried it. It looks cool. I'm not going to run with it, though. I think it's too small. Because I wanted it like an adventure width, adventure size. That's a pretty detailed sketch. It looks good. It's hard for me to tell just from a profile. I need to see like grind lines and things like that. But anyhow, that blade will be done here in just a little bit. 15 minutes or so, it'll be finished up. But coming up next is, yes sir, hand drafted. Coming up next is the Lone Star drop. This will be the Lone Star right here. I've got 7 of these blades all heat treated. One of them belongs to Zach. And then I've got 2 of these in ADCR-V2. I figured I'd just do some in ADCR-V2 just to have that option. They'll be basic. Most of these will be basic. 2 of them will have some copper screws. So that'll be cool. Orange liners and burgundy micarta for the handles on a couple of those. And then I'll do some with the, I might do the ADCR-V2 ones in that. Maybe. But I've got a sheet of dark green, a double green from Macecraft. This stuff is really good looking. The Counter-Strike is awesome. It really is. I'm just waiting on these to get done so I can show you. 17 minutes left. Well, they're not quite done yet. It's in the oven. It's in the oven right now. It looks so good. It's all ground, and it just needs to be finished ground and handles put on it. So that'll be coming soon. I'm gonna try and get that one done like this week. Pinstrike, Surgical Strike, the little guy. Yeah, I've thought about that. Going one size smaller, but then you almost just be in Mustang territory. And I am thinking about doing, because the Mustang is hollow ground like the first Strike, and I'm thinking about doing a flat ground and a hollow ground version of the Counter-Strike like I've been doing with the first Strike. But we had to do a dump run today. That's kind of hindered me this week. We had so much stuff piled up back here that you couldn't even get back to the vacuum. I've got enough room now to put the swamp cooler back here. And this room we're in the middle of working on this right now. But my Cerakote bench is all cluttered up. So I came back here today to take a bunch of stuff to the dump. We took a whole bunch of stuff. We had all the trash cans in the shop were full, and we had a bunch of boxes and things that pile up back here. But anyway, the Strikeout, that would be awesome. The Strikeout, that's pretty good. The little dude, Strikeout. Anyway, I had to empty the vacuum bag, and which is in that trash can right there, and it was so heavy you couldn't hardly lift it out of there. And some of it was the blasting media from like a glass bead sand from the sandblaster, because I had that vacuum hooked up to the sandblaster as well when it was sitting right here. But it was there was a whole bunch of dust in there, but my vacuum wasn't working great, and that filter that sits on top has a little fin scraper thing that spins around it, and it was so impacted with dust. I had to spend like 45 minutes cleaning that filter out. There was so much dust. There was half a bucket full of dust that came out of just the filter alone. Every time we'd knock it off and spin the little thing, lift it up and just shovel the dust into the bag, and it was pretty nasty, in need of cleaning. But that all got done. Everything's ready to go. Finally, we're ready to roll. I'm ready to really get moving, and I feel like I am already. I got a bunch of blades, a bunch of dang blades. But I was going to show you guys the Kydex presses now have their own station, and I started doing this a while back, and I haven't really shown it at all. Maybe I have, I don't remember. But I wanted a press that I could use without having to have both hands to clamp it. And this idea kind of came to me. It's just a nut welded onto one side, and it's flat, and it needs to articulate slightly, so it kind of binds up a little. See how that rod will end up touching either the top or the bottom of this other hole. I tried to make it as big as I could, but anyway, I've got to make another one of those systems for this guy. Just built this one this week. And then I'll have 3 taco presses and 1 pancake press. So I added this big funky bar right here so I could let it stand up, because it was just going all the way back. It used to sit on this table right here, but that arm rested on that thing, the arbor press that used to sit like right here. Now this table has 1 job instead of 3 jobs. and that is cutting Kydex. That is the one job of this table. So this, I came up with this a long time ago. This is just quite simply a piece of aluminum angle, and I've got it screwed to the bench, but I've got it lifted up just enough so when you set a piece of Kydex on the table, it goes underneath, somewhat tight. And so that used to sit over here on this side, and because I needed this table for other things, I couldn't set the whole piece of Kydex onto the table. But now I put this track on here. It's just a piece of steel, mild steel, to it's all square with this angle, so I don't have to measure twice. I was having to measure up top and on the bottom, and I have these measuring sticks that that's a 6-inch notch, that's a 7-inch notch, and I have these notches set up to where I don't have to pull a tape measure out. I just set the notch on the edge of the Kydex and touch the guide, and then I'll just take the cutting knife, which is just a roughneck, and this edge is blunt. There's no edge on here. It's just this part, the front edge. And I'll score that Kydex, and then you can slide it on down just a little and pop it off. Now I've got enough room to cut Kydex and set it aside. So that's pretty nice. That's really nice, now that I can use that table for its potential. And then I put a little tiny shelf here to put all like the stacks of cut pieces that are ready to go in the oven. I always usually set them up on top, but I also always have blades sitting up top there as well. We got 10 minutes left on that, and then we'll pull those out. Anyway, I have got to run in the house and use the bathroom right quick. So I'm gonna just go ahead and end this live stream, and then I'm ready to get to the house. So we'll talk about the Counter-Strike tomorrow. I appreciate all you guys tuning in. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Have a